Hey, I'm Delia. I am an art consultant with an unpretentious approach. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I talk to you about why you should become an art collector and exactly how to do that. Today, I wanted to take you through one of the arts appreciation practices that I recommend to all of my art collectors. So I am typically recommending this practice either when they are making buying decisions, when they're trying to figure out which piece to collect, or once they have actually acquired the piece and we're trying to really integrate with it and build a deeper appreciation and connection to it. So today, I'm going to take you through a piece in my collection. It is this piece here. It is called Overthinking 2. It's by the artist Shaylin Wallace, who goes by the art name Shay the Surrealist. I think her work is really cool. I have placed her pieces in a number of clients' homes. I really think that she makes some really cool shit. Hopefully this video is not going to be super long and full of pauses. I also hope that I don't have to edit it a lot and make it really choppy, but the truth is that this arts appreciation practice is not really YouTube friendly. It takes a long time for me to articulate what I'm trying to, and that's a part of the point. We are trying to slow down, have a deeper appreciation of the piece, whatever piece we're looking at, and really dissect it and understand our own reactions to it. So I'm going to do my best to edit this so that it is an enjoyable viewing experience for you. Please bear with me as we go here. So this is a 4-part arts appreciation practice that I have kind of borrowed and edited from the Not Sorry Productions folks who do a lot of sacred readings. They're doing it of literature. It comes from a lot of studies of literature, but I am doing it with art. So there's a little bit of a translation process that we're going to go through. But for the most part, it's borrowed from them. I appreciate them for introducing me to these practices. So the very first step that I do with my clients, with all of my collectors, when we are doing this arts appreciation practice, and this is my go-to practice, by the way, but the very first step is to describe every single component of it as objectively and detailed as we possibly can. So the point here is to really remove my interpretation and my assumptions and try to just really look at the piece, practice looking, and see what we can observe. So I typically start, I'll pick a corner, I just start in, I'm going to go up here, and I'm basically going to name all of the component parts to it without trying to make any assumptions or draw any conclusions. So to start with, I notice here that there are a bunch of lines that are cutting diagonally across. They don't seem to be connected to anything or going anywhere. It's a white background. It's really just a bunch of eventually intersecting lines here. Moving back down, we see a little bit more what begins to look like, obviously it's going to become a bridge. There's, an arch. There are straight concrete lines, metal lines going into the piece. In the far background, I can see what looks like a cityscape. It's a little bit obscure. It's not clear to me what city I'm looking at. I just see buildings. The initial white up here has kind of turned into a greenish gray. In the background there, we have concrete. We have clearly a bridge that she is standing on. And then I get over here, my eye immediately is caught by this foot. It's pointing. She's barefoot, which is a question that maybe I would tag for later conversation. It looks cold. But that's okay. So right there, I just did an assumption, which we can get to down the line. So just really making sure that we are speaking strictly objectively. Have I been saying subjective? We are speaking objectively about the piece. We are trying to remove all of our interpretations from this piece and speak as objectively as possible. So she's barefoot. She's wearing some like floral maroon brownish skirt. Her body is at a really unusual angle. She has one standing leg that is relatively solidly planted, but the whole body is at a pretty unusual angle. Moving up along the curve of her body, I see a person. I also see that the lights are on, which tells me nothing. The lights are on is my observation. Coming kind of across to this corner, it gets really industrial. This is the most industrial looking bridge. All of a sudden it looks, very geometric and architectural looking. We have lines again going inward toward the city. and toward the middle of this piece. Going up, this for some reason looks more like foliage to me than buildings. I guess there are more organic lines. Then on the other side of the bridge, the green gray has become slightly more blue. I can see more depth and different tones, which looks to me like a bunch of trees, maybe on a riverbank. A little bit more skyline here, gray, and then we have this intense plume of super, super black smoke. And it's not small, it's a very thick amount of smoke that is going diagonally up. There's a little bit of gray in there. There's some like tonal variation, but the majority of it is very dark black. And then up even further into this corner, we have again this kind of white gray sky, these lines that are going up into nothing. But here I can see that they are connected to something as opposed to on that side. That's my first part. Just describe everything. Ideally, you are actually writing this all down. There is something that happens when you write. I think it slows us down differently. It's a really nice practice. So you write it all down, and then you're going to go through maybe not every single component that you wrote down, but a majority of them. And you're going to basically draw out associations to other things in our culture. So we are still really trying to avoid talking personally and making personal conjectures. It's an association to something else. So for example, I'm not going to go through every single component of that, but I'll take you through a couple. Her posture, if I take away this plume, is very ballet to me. The pointing of the toes, the like dangling of her arm, it maybe is a slightly different, like that I don't associate with ballet, but this bottom part of her body, it feels very contemporary art or ballet to me. The dangling arm, I don't immediately have an association to. I have a personal one, we'll get to that in a minute. And then up higher here, I mean, this looks like a freaking industrial fire to me. The deepness of the black tells me that something very toxic is burning. Yeah, like I guess I have an association to carving on fire, for example. I also have this weird, maybe in the 7th Harry Potter movie, when the Dementors are coming and like shaking the bridges in London. For some reason, this whole bridge looks like that setup to me. I live in the United States. Maybe we don't have bridges like this. I'm not really sure. So those are my like allegories or cultural associations that I'm going to make. I then make my personal connection. So again, I'm going through piece by piece. I am trying to draw conclusions to my own personal experiences here. So I think of my mother a lot with this piece, specifically in her outfit. I really don't know why. My mom has never worn anything like this, but for some reason this arm, the way it is dangling, feels very like my mother. It feels relaxed. It feels peaceful in a nice way. The skirt my mom would never wear, but for some reason I have an association to her. I'll come back to the lighting that we talked about that I was making an assumption about, but my assumption is that it is either dusk or dawn, or it's like a storm, you know, when a storm comes and they turn on the city lights, which is always very confusing and strange. But that's the feeling that I get. It's a little bit eerie. It's slightly lonely. Like I feel like she should be home at this point in the day. Yeah, okay, so I think that that's like the extent of my personal associations that I'm going to draw to this piece, except one other thing, which was that my best friend in college was a dancer. And I could easily see this being her body. I feel like this is the right height, the right proportions. So there's like a really nice familial connection that I feel with this woman. Okay, the fourth task. This is what gets a little bit challenging for a lot of people, but we are to pretend that the artist knows us intimately, that they have a clear understanding of our values, of our memories, of all of these things. And they made this piece specifically for us in order to give us some kind of message. Basically, you are making a conjecture. It's playtime. It's imaginative. Just go with it for a moment. So if this artist made this piece specifically for me, what message would she be telling me? So the first thing that I think of, I have sometimes a disconnect between my brain and my body. I am often very limited by my body. I have fibromyalgia. It prevents me from doing things sometimes. If I'm, in a workflow and I'm really focused on something, then I get a migraine. There's this extreme frustration that I feel between what my brain and my mind are ready to do and what my body is ready to do. And I'm really trying to merge those things and have a little bit more empathy and connection to my body, and not feel immediately so frustrated with that. And I feel like this is an interesting like mirror of the way that our brains and our bodies can be really disconnected, and maybe an invitation to reconnect those. Okay, my alternative is really putting a lot of trust and emphasis on the body. And maybe the setting, maybe your brain is signaling a lot of chaos, overwhelm, panic, fear, but her body remains really graceful in this really interesting arc. She is balanced somehow. The looseness of her hand really indicates that she's comfortable, that she feels really sturdy, that there's like a relaxed, leaning back feeling to it. And maybe it's an invitation to really rest in our body's knowledge and intuitive powers, and not be so in our brains all the time and fear-based and anxious and, all that this is. So, okay, that's basically the rough version of this 4-part practice. But to recap, you first go through everything and describe it objectively as possible, with as many details as you're willing to give it, understanding that it could span literally pages of details if you chose to go into that much depth. The second part is drawing out different associations to culture, to music, to movies, to anything external in our community and in our culture. The third is drawing associations to your own personal life, allowing personal memories to come up, just kind of like stream of consciousness, but personalized. Somatic experiences, memories, whatever, associations. And then the fourth one is making an assumption that there is a message just for you that the artist planted in this piece, and allowing yourself to decide what that is. So a lot of interpreting art really comes down to just being comfortable with meaning making and assuming value, and trusting your own ability to interpret a piece. Interpretation is really just deciding on the meaning of something and utilizing that to make metaphors and to draw conclusions. So I love this practice. I think it is really interesting. I think it's especially interesting when you're doing it with someone else who can kind of present a different perspective and see things in a slightly different way. I think even just the first step alone is so overlooked. We do not appreciate enough how much we fail to see. Whatever that study is that says how quickly people walk by masterpieces in a museum. It's a matter of seconds. And we have this assumption that our eye can interpret everything like instantaneously, and it's absolutely not true. There are so many details that we miss. And even if you just did that first step with any piece that you're considering, I think that you would unravel a lot of information and really go through a process of uncovering the depth of meaning of a piece. I hope that was helpful for you. I will do another video on a different arts appreciation practice that I do at some point. But yeah, I think that arts appreciation practices are really wonderful. I think it's a great way to get to know your own ability to see, your preferences, to start to develop language around what you like and don't like in a piece of art, and connect it to your personal life. It's a really cool way of doing that. And I encourage you to do that with any pieces that you currently have or are considering acquiring. Let me know what questions you have. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you subscribe to this YouTube channel and share it with anyone who you think might like it.